welcome back for episode 4 of the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Ghost.
I'm Ash.
And hello.
Hi. So, what tea you got going this week?
I have a lemon ginger green tea.
And I just have the good old plain Earl Grey.
With diabetic amounts of sugar.
Look, from the South, I like my sugar. Okay?
Yeah.
So, this week is my week, and I don't think I've told you at all what I'm going to do.
Nope.
Cool. Okay, so let's just get into it. So this week I wanted to talk about Scientology.
Oh, God.
And the reason is because I didn't actually know what Scientology is.
A bunch of bullshit for rich celebrities.
Well, yeah, so we're going to get into it.
Yeah, it was created by L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what they believed in. I knew it was a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the context of it, so I fell down an extensive rabbit hole.
Yeah. A quick fact, John Travolta is a Scientologist. And so is Danny Masterson, who was actually just sentenced to, 25 years for rape? He was high on that 70s show.
Mm-hmm.
And his brother...
I've got notes.
Yeah. There's a bunch of... Tom Cruise.
Yeah, obviously, that's the most famous one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a bunch of rich assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't be a Scientologist unless you have a shit ton of money and pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And I didn't know that.
But, hey, quick fact. Whenever we went on our senior trip, our hotel was actually right across the street from the Church of Scientology in New York City.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Did you know the closest Church of Scientology to us is in Nashville, Tennessee?
Doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this first part, I'm going to get into the backstory of Scientology and what it supposedly is according to their official website, Scientology.org. So,
because, .org makes everything official.
So basically, I'm going to read a little bit about what the Scientology website talks about with L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Dianetics and Scientology. So it starts with, such an adventure is also what ultimately led L. Ron Hubbard to the founding of Dianetics and Scientology, and thus a route to previously unimagined spiritual heights. Among other landmark events of the journey, in July of 1952, L. Ron Hubbard became the first to scientifically isolate, measure, and describe the human spirit, while objectively demonstrating spiritual potentials well in advance of scientific thought. So, that's a load of shit, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Moreover, those potentials were found to be possessed by every human being and just as universally attainable. Thus developed his description of Scientology as accomplishing the goal of every great religion, freeing the soul by wisdom. All told, L. Ron Hubbard's works on Dianetics and Scientology comprise the largest cohesive statement on the human mind and spirit, more than 5,000 writings and 3,000 recorded lectures. Contained therein are answers to life's most profound mysteries, the enigma of existence, the riddle of death, the realization of states not even described in earlier literature. Also from these works come Scientology technologies to rear children, repair families, educate, organize, and provide relief in times of illness or suffering. So that all may avail themselves of these technologies, L. Ron Hubbard directed the rise of Scientology churches all over the world and thus the birth of a worldwide religion. It is a practical religion, it is applicable to every aspect of human existence, and it is religion for the here and now. But at its core and within every church of Scientology lies this enduring invitation from its founder. We are extending to you the precious gift of freedom and immortality, factually, honestly.
That was a mouthful, and I really don't know what you said.
I said a lot.
Yeah.
So basically, L. Ron Hubbard created the greatest religion to exist, is what that said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, whenever you make world peace, then I might call it that.
Yeah. So, what is Scientology? Developed by L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology is a religion that offers a precise path leading to a complete and certain understanding of one's true spiritual nature and one's relationship to self, family, groups, mankind, all life forms, the material universe, the spiritual universe, and the supreme being. They don't technically...
I don't think they believe in medicine. If I'm not mistaken.
They do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. They don't, like, when they say supreme being, they're not talking about a god or anything. It's really weird. I think I have that in my notes to get to it in a little bit. So continuing, Scientology addresses the spirit, not the body or mind, and believes that man is far more than a product of his environment or his genes. Scientology comprises a body of knowledge which extends from certain fundamental truths. Prime among these are: man is an immortal spiritual being. His experience extends well beyond a single lifetime. His capabilities are unlimited, even if not presently realized. Scientology further holds man to be basically good, and that his spiritual salvation depends upon himself, his fellows, and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. Scientology is not a dogmatic religion in which one is asked to accept anything on faith alone. On the contrary, one discovers for oneself that the principles of Scientology are true by applying its principles and observing or experiencing the results. The ultimate goal of Scientology is true spiritual enlightenment and freedom for all. Which doesn't technically sound like that bad of a thing,
I guess.
On the surface.
On the surface. But what happens behind closed doors is a different thing.
A much different thing, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So, the fundamentals of Scientology rest upon what they call the 8 dynamics. And I'm not really going to, get too much into the 8 dynamics. I'm just going to read what they are because it's a mouthful.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So, the first dynamic is self. The second is creativity. The third is group survival. The fourth is species. The fifth is life forms. The sixth is physical universe. The seventh is spiritual dynamic. And the eighth is infinity, which is also what they call God or the supreme being or the creator.
Supreme, like in American Horror Story Coven.
Yeah. They don't technically believe in a God, so that one confused me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they might be like a self-worship type thing. It could be. So, you worship yourself, in a sense of how, Satanism.
Kind of, the whole thing is, complete self-improvement and self-enlightenment, or whatever. Right, so experiencing, or learning as much as you possibly can, and also
being the best you that you can be.
Yes. It's what they say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Before, I feel like I needed to read this one a little bit, which is Dianetics, which is what it used to be, and I forget what happened. I didn't put it in my notes, I don't think, for whatever reason, or I had it and I don't know. But at first, Scientology was called Dianetics. And it's essentially the same thing, but now they're saying that Dianetics is just a methodology which can help alleviate unwanted sensations and emotions, irrational fears, and psychosomatic illnesses caused or aggravated by mental stress.
Well, hell, everyone's got fucking mental stress because do you see the hellscape?
I know.
Jesus, I don't know a person that isn't depressed or has anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even our damn dogs do.
Right.
We're their emotional support humans instead of emotional support dogs.
Yeah. So with the Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard actually wrote a book called Dianetics, A Modern Science of Mental Health. And according to the website, it says its publication in 1950 marks a watershed in the history of man's quest for a true understanding of himself. I'm not going to go too far into Dianetics because it's
See, to me, the word Dianetics sounds like something that would be to do with like robotics, mechanical stuff.
You would think. It's actually, well, it says the Dianetic symbol uses the Greek letter delta as its basic form. So Dianetics, dia means through, and nos means mind or soul in Greek.
So through your mind and soul, the kind of what you
I think
put
so,
the word
yeah.
together.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay.
So, and it's the same thing with Scientology. Like, they use the Latin word scio, which means knowing in the fullest sense of the word, and logos, Greek, which means the study of. So Scientology means knowing how to know.
That's redundant.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, it says it's a 21st century religion. Obviously, it's a fairly recent.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about it since I was a kid, and like Tom Cruise being in it, and how popular and well known he is. So that's how I knew about it. And then John Travolta. So I've heard about it, like I said, since I was a little kid. So it's been around for at least 25 years because I'll be 33 in a couple of days.
Yeah, and like while researching it, a lot of it is just, it's super redundant. It just keeps calling itself a religion, and I don't see what's so religion about it aside from like the culty aspect.
Yeah. Okay, so to me it just sounds more like a way of life.
Yeah. But so speaking of like the way of life or whatever, they do have a creed. So the creed of the Church of Scientology. I'm going to read all of it. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, I think I've heard it because I heard it on my cult's podcast. I listened.
So their creed is, we of the church believe that all men of whatever race, color, or creed were created with equal rights, that all men have inalienable rights to their own religious practices and their performance, that all men have inalienable rights to their own lives, that all men have inalienable rights to their sanity, that all men have inalienable rights to their own defense. I'm so tired of saying that word. That all men have inalienable rights to conceive, choose, assist, or support their own organizations, churches, and governments.
Kind of sounds like the Freemasons. Like if you have, read about their teachings or whatever, it kind of reminds me of the Freemasons because they're, I don't know if you've read about them.
Not yet.
But yeah.
Going on, the next one is that all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others. That is actually a funny one, and I'm going to cover that in just a second. That all men have inalienable rights to the creation of their own kind, that the souls of men have the rights of men, that the study of the mind and the healing of mentally caused ills should not be alienated from religion or condoned in non-religious fields, and that no agency less than God has the power to suspend or set aside these rights overtly or covertly. And we of the church believe that man is basically good, that he is seeking to survive, that his survival depends upon himself and upon his fellows, and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. And we of the church believe that the laws of God forbid man to destroy his own kind, to destroy the sanity of another, to destroy or enslave another's soul, to destroy or reduce the survival of one's companions or one's groups. And we of the church believe that the spirit can be saved, and that the spirit alone may save or heal the body.
So overall, it sounds like it would not be that bad.
It sounds like it, because I went into this knowing next to nothing what they believed in and this, that, and the other. So when I started researching it, I was like,
oh, well, that's not bad.
This doesn't sound that bad. But then I was like,
there's got to be a catch.
Growing up in church, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Because when they said that, everyone has their own rights to think freely, talk freely, and write freely their own opinions, did you know that they are very aggressive towards people when they speak bad against the Church of Scientology.
Oh yeah, like I said, I don't know if you're going to cover it, but you probably are.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to get into the juicy stuff towards the end. I'm just covering
the history.
Yeah, right now, like the basics and the boring bullshit of everything.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to get to that.
Yeah, because also, it says that the church believes that the laws of God forbid man, to destroy his own kind, sanity, enslave another soul, whatever. They don't follow that very well.
Yeah. So whenever you say man, are you talking about overall mankind?
I think so.
Just like men, like quote unquote born men or whatever.
Well, from what I've seen, they don't really discriminate against genders.
Yeah. Because I know Leah Remini was in Scientology, and luckily she got the fuck out.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's got a whole fucking documentary on that bullshit.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Then there's the Code of a Scientologist. There's like 20.
It's probably just a bunch of redundants that you just said.
It pretty much is. Because the first one is to keep Scientologists, the public, and the press accurately informed concerning Scientology, the world of mental health, and society. The third one actually made me laugh because it says to refuse to accept for processing and to refuse to accept money from any pre-clear or group I feel I cannot honestly help. I'm going to get into clearing here in a minute.
Yeah. Well, they sure as shit don't turn down money, that's for sure. Because you have to pay ungodly amount of fees and stuff to be in it.
Mm-hmm. And the next two is kind of, the next three actually, 8, 9, and 10. 8 is to support true humanitarian endeavors in the fields of human rights. 9, to embrace the policy of equal justice for all. And 10, to work for freedom of speech in the world. They don't really believe the freedom of speech thing.
Yeah, because if you can't speak bad about it, then
you can't express your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole equal justice for all, and human rights and stuff. I think there was a bit that I'm going to get into about them and the LGBT plus community.
That doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, number 20, was to make this world a saner, better place. But they're not using the money that they're getting from all these people to make the world a better, saner place.
Yeah, no. It's all lining their pocketbooks like most religious things do. Calling you out, Joel Osteen. That dude's a sack of shit.
I know. Okay, so the clear. I'm going to read what they have on the website about what clearing is and what all that shit. Have you heard of it?
I don't think so. If I have, it was so long ago.
Mm-hmm. So, the goal of Dianetics is a new state for the individual sought throughout history but never attainable before Dianetics. Okay. This state is called clear. A clear is a person who no longer has his own reactive mind and therefore suffers none of the ill effects that the reactive mind can cause. That sounds like brainwashing.
Yeah, like the Stepford Wives. They pretty much want you to be a fucking zombie or robot for them.
Yeah. So the clear has no engrams, which, when re-stimulated, throw out the correctness of his computations by entering hidden and false data. Becoming clear strengthens a person's native individuality and creativity and does not in any way diminish these attributes. A clear is free with his emotions, he can think for himself, he can experience life unencumbered by inhibitions reactively dictated by past engrams. Artistry, personal force, and individual character are all residual in the basic personality of the person, not the reactive mind. Clears are self-confident, happy, and generally successful in both careers and interpersonal relationships. It is a highly desirable state for any individual and is attainable by virtually anyone. In fact, thousands upon thousands of people have achieved the state of clear, a living tribute to the workability of L. Ron Hubbard's discoveries and the technology he developed. Yeah, and those people are probably also bankrupt now.
Yeah. And God knows what else.
Yeah, so I pulled some from other places of the interwebs. That was all I had pulled from their actual website.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot on their website. If you're interested, go to Scientology.org. They have a whole bunch of shit. I went down a rabbit hole for hours looking through just their website. I looked elsewhere. And basically, so Scientology does actually believe in reincarnation and that traumatic events cause problematic engrams in the mind, which can only be removed through an activity called auditing. The auditing, yeah. So the auditing is what basically helps you to become clear. That's what you pay for.
I can just see like a little person in your head going like, all right, we're going to take this out. I kind of wish that's how it was, because there would be a lot of shit I would erase from my brain.
Yeah. And one thing I couldn't really find was how they actually did the auditing. So, like, what goes into doing this to make you become clear? Because what it sounds like is a whole bunch of therapy sessions.
Yeah.
But
everyone needs to go to therapy. I don't give a shit what you think. You need to go to therapy.
Yeah, therapy is actually good. Just don't pay thousands of dollars for it. That's a scam. A fee is charged for each session of auditing. Once an auditor deems an individual free of engrams, typically after several years, they are given the status of clear.
See, that throws a red flag.
Yeah. And the auditors also have like a list of codes and creeds that they're supposed to go by. I was going to read through them.
No.
But there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Well, what I was meaning, like, as a red flag, okay, yeah, sometimes it does take people years to go through their trauma and stuff, especially if it's overly, traumatic.
Yeah.
But I think overall you could probably get rid of a lot of your stuff, or at least find ways to cope with it within a year. But if it takes several years, that means they just want your fucking money.
Or you're not seeing the right therapist, and they're not doing...
Yeah, or
like
they're
you're not
doing
clicking.
their job.
Yeah, or you're just not clicking with this therapist.
Yeah.
Like their stuff isn't working for you. Scholarship differs on the interpretation of these beliefs. Some academics regard them as religious in nature. Other scholars regard them as merely means of extracting money from Scientology recruits. After attaining clear status, adherents can take part in the operating thetan levels, which require further payments. The operating thetan texts are kept secret for most followers. They are revealed only after adherents have typically given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Scientology organization. Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a millionaire in order to be a part of it, which, there again, red flag.
Yeah,
if you genuinely wanted to make the world a better place, you would not charge an outrageous amount for it.
Right. I think per session, will cost you anywhere between $1,000 and $4,000. That's so goddamn much. I think that's, yeah. In 2007, the fee for a 12.5-hour block of auditing at the church's Tampa org was $4,000.
So you said 12.5 hours?
Yeah.
So $4,000?
Yes.
That is $320 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. And, most of the prices aren't, obviously advertised publicly, but in a 1964 letter, Hubbard stated that a 25-hour block of auditing should cost the equivalent of 3 months' pay for the average middle-class working individual.
Look, Jesus Christ.
That would be, okay, so if Tampa's org was charging $4,000, that would be $8,000, but if you're saying 3 months pay for the average middle-class individual, well, middle class makes, how much do they make a month?
Because I honestly don't know what the average wages anymore, because it's a shit show.
Right. We'll say it's supposed to be $4,000 a month. It's $12,000. So, going back to the text that the Scientology organization tries to keep secret, you can find them anywhere online, and they're wild. I didn't actually go into anything stating, I just got brief summaries of what they are.
Yeah.
And basically, the texts say past lives took place in extraterrestrial cultures. They involve an alien called Xenu, described as a planetary ruler 70 million years ago who brought billions of aliens to Earth and killed them with thermonuclear weapons.
You know what? I think aliens would not come to our fucking planet because, and I'm gesturing my hands out to show the shit show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they would just look at us and be like, nope, and just get out of here. They're like, this is the bad part of the solar planet,
right?
The solar system, so we're just going to bypass this one.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, that's the framework of their mythological bullshit, whatever. Going back to the auditing, I'm jumping around a little bit, but ADHD.
Well,
yeah, so after a bunch of criticism for the prices that the church charged for auditing, Hubbard stated that charging for auditing was necessary because the practice required an exchange, and should the auditor not receive something for their services, it could harm both parties. Okay, so you'd rather just harm the one party financially?
Yeah.
And probably mentally. I can imagine that wouldn't be good for your mental health.
No. But fuck mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who needs mental health?
I know, right? I don't know. Anyways, so getting into the little juicy bits, right?
Ooh, juicy.
Little bit.
Spill the tea.
So, government inquiries, international parliamentary bodies, scholars, law lords, and numerous superior court judgments have described Scientology both as a dangerous cult and as a manipulative, profit-making business. These institutions and scholars state that Scientology is not a religion.
Yeah, no.
It even says that it's non-dogmatic. And I'm sorry, most technical religions have a god at the center of them.
Yeah.
I know not all. I know as far as, I guess Satanism is technically considered a religion, but they also believe that you can believe whatever else you want.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's more like a way of life.
It's a philosophy.
Yeah.
And then also, Scientology is basically a ripoff of a bunch of other different practices and religions and stuff, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Thelema, new scientific ideas, science fiction, and from psychology and popular self-help literature available by the mid-20th century. The ceremonies, structure of the prayers, and attire worn by ministers in the church all reflect the influence of Protestantism. I really feel like there is a hardcore Christian element to all this. Who is a Scientologist right now?
There's a bunch of people. There you go, Danny Masterson.
Danny Masterson. He has a long history with the church. His family's practiced Scientology. Obviously he's been very outspoken about it, defending Tom Cruise and all that bullshit. But yeah, no, Masterson was actually sentenced to 30 years to life after being found guilty of 2 counts of rape.
Yep. And they covered it up as much as they could.
Yeah. And then his wife is also a member of the church.
Bijou Phillips, if you don't know that they were married.
And then Masterson's siblings, including the Walking Dead star, Alana.
Yeah, Alana Masterson, which makes me sad because I do like her. I loved her character on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And then his brother, Chris Masterson.
Yeah. So their dad is what started it all, but he is actually a former Scientologist. And he claims that his 4 kids, were brainwashed into believing that he, their dad, was a threat to their faith after quitting the church.
Wow. See, this is why I do not like religion.
Organized religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Travolta, been in Scientology since the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, well, apparently he was reportedly breaking away from the church following the death of his wife and fellow Scientologist Kelly Preston in July 2020.
Oh, yeah, I forgot his wife died. Which John Travolta's a little shady because I've heard some stuff about him that's not.
Kelly Preston, John Travolta's wife, claimed that Scientology was able to help her cope with the sudden death of her teenage son, Jet. Kirstie Alley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, she passed away in 2022 from cancer.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, she claimed that Scientology helped her get past her cocaine addiction, and she was a member of the church for over 30 years. Yeah, she was apparently reportedly the highest ranking a Scientologist can hold.
Huh. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Jenna Elfman.
Oh, I didn't know that one either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in 2018, she was 28 years as a Scientologist. I'm assuming she is still part of it.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. Nancy Cartwright.
Oh, God, that hurts me.
Yeah,
I fucking love her so much, but that really hurts me.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know she's in The Simpsons.
She voices Bart Simpson.
Okay. Yeah.
That hurts my heart.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, a recording of her using Bart's voice to encourage people to come to Scientology event in LA back in 2009 was leaked to the Republic, and the recording was only meant to be heard by Scientologists. But in 2023, she had donated over $20 million to the church.
That's obscene.
Yeah. Doug E. Fresh.
I have no idea who
he says he's a hip-hop legend.
That could be why I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really listen to hip-hop.
Yeah. Says that he revealed his association with the church in 2009, and I guess he's still one. Handmaid's Tale Elizabeth Moss. Elizabeth Moss has practiced Scientology since she was a child.
Which, I mean, if that's what you're raised into and that's all you know, then you're kind of brainwashed from a kid on.
So.
Which is the same thing that happens, in Christianity and anything else. You're brainwashed as a kid.
Well, that and, did she grow up rich? Okay, I was about to say, a lot of people come from a place of privilege and they don't understand that the church is actually a cult and only meant for the rich.
Yeah.
Because she said it's not really a closed-off religion. It's a place that is very open to welcoming in somebody who wants to learn more about it. I think that's the thing that is probably the most misunderstood. And from what I have seen, it seems like it's very welcoming if you have money.
Yeah. So so they will allow you to, come and see everything up to a certain point, even if you're, poor.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start becoming a frequent member or, a frequent visitor or whatever, that's when they start demanding money from you.
Yeah. They really try and recruit celebrities.
Yeah, because
they only want to retain celebrities.
Yeah, because money, the root of all evil.
There's a whole list of them, though, dude.
Let me see.
So there's Kirstie Alley, Ann Archer, Catherine Bell, Nancy Cartwright, Erica Christensen, Chick Corea, Tom Cruise, obviously, Jason Dohring, Jenna Elfman, Doug E. Fresh,
Isaac Hayes,
Hayes, Vivian Kubrick, Alana Masterson, Christopher Masterson, Danny Masterson, Elizabeth Moss,
Michael Pena,
Giovanni Ribisi.
Oh, really? He was in he's been in a bunch of stuff that I've watched.
John Travolta and Greta Van Susteren. People who have left the church, I don't know how to say his last name, Jason Begg?
Yeah, we'll just say Begg.
Yeah, William S. Burroughs II, Paul Haggis, Katie Holmes, Jason Lee, Juliette Lewis, Laura
Prepon. She played Donna because she on that 70s show because she was dating Chris Masterson, and then of course she got sucked into it. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Katie Holmes when her and Tom Cruise got divorced. She left.
Yeah. Lisa Marie Presley,
I did not know that about Lisa Marie.
Leah Remini. Jeffrey Tabor. Tambor. Okay. Robert Van Young.
I have no idea who that is. But yeah, I knew Laura Prepon used to be in it because she was dating Chris Masterson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, speaking of Leah Remini,
I know a little bit of what all she.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
so basically, claims were made that members are taught that the LGBTQ plus people are dangerous and scary, and members of the church will treat your entire existence this way and smile to your face. So she also alleged that, well, this was not from Leah, this was from, but this is her saying this. So Adair alleged that once Scientology leaders learned she was gay, they forced her to marry a man. So I don't think, okay, so this article is not about Leah. It's about Rachel Hastings Adair. But Leah had her on a podcast to share her experiences about the LGBTQ plus. But yeah, Adair goes on to say that the church's position has always been clear. As a prominent advocate of human rights, the church is on record as being opposed to discrimination of any sort, including on the basis of sexual orientation. Oh, on Leah's podcast, they discussed how LGBTQ plus members of the church are ordered to audit the gay away, wow, which is its own version of conversion therapy.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't work that way. Just saying.
Right? Okay, so I mentioned David Miscavige. He has an entire website. It's called davidmiscavige.org. And he is the current and second leader of the Scientology religion. His position is the chairman of the Board Religious Technology Center. Yeah. Okay. So I couldn't really find. Anyways, his website basically says that under Mr. Miscavige's stewardship, Scientology has touched millions of lives through church-supported social betterment and humanitarian programs in the religion's multilingual, multi-generational message of peace, hope, and goodwill. But speaking of David, he's a big name out there nowadays. His wife, Shelley Miscavige, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently, she was last seen in public August 1st, 2007.
That's what I was going to say earlier when I said I know something, but
yeah.
Yeah.
She has been missing for 16 years, 2 months, and 21 days. Leah Remini actually filed a missing person report against her. And it was closed within hours by the Los Angeles Police Department as unfounded. Because apparently Shelley is fine and in good health. Supposedly. Everyone thinks David murdered her, and he probably did.
Probably.
So now we're going to get into more of David's family. So Jenna Miscavige Hill, she is David's niece. Yeah, she's David's niece. And she left the Church of Scientology in 2005 and has become an outspoken critic of the organization. She had been a third-generation Scientologist, the granddaughter of Ron Miscavige Sr., who also left the church in 2012, and the daughter of Elizabeth Biddy Miscavige and Ron Miscavige Jr., who left in 2000. She also wrote a book called Beyond Belief, My Secret Life Inside Scientology, and My Harrowing Escape. So I think basically she grew up in Scientology's Sea Org, which I think I'm going to get into because the Sea Org is wild. Well, the biggest thing about the Sea Org is you sign, at age 8, she signed her own billion-year contract with them.
The fuck? You're not even legally old enough to sign a document at that age.
Mm-hmm. And one requirement of the Sea Org was that families be separated and that children over the age of 6 would be raised communally at locations close to the Sea Org bases. So at 6, she was moved to the cadet org school called the Ranch.
That doesn't sound like a red flag at all.
Yeah, and at the Ranch, Hill states that in addition to rote learning of the works of L. Ron Hubbard, she was expected to do heavy manual labor for 25 hours a week. She was 6 years old.
Yeah. I had actually read, these kids were having to, stay at the church or whatever till, 2 o'clock in the morning and then expected to go to school the next day.
Probably.
like the next morning at literally just a few hours later. Which is what most cults do. They make you so tired that you can't fight back.
Yeah.
Because you're expected to be there like 20 hours a day.
And so she described her experience from ages 5 to 12 as, she said, we were also required to write down all transgressions, similar to a sin in the Catholic religion. After writing them all down, we would receive a meter check on the electropsychometer to make sure we weren't hiding anything, and you would have to keep writing until you came up clean.
Like shock therapy type thing, or
no? So a psychometer, or the e-meter, is an electronic device for displaying the electrodermal activity of the human being. It's sort of like a polygraph.
Yeah,
it's used in human studies to gauge psychological responses, and it's a big thing that's used for auditing in Scientology. So so Hill left the ranch in 1997. She began training in CMO, Commodore's Messenger Organization, which is a unit within the Sea Org, where Hill claims she was given repeated security checks, investigations looking for confessions of misdemeanors from past and present lives. After several months, she was told that her parents had left the Sea Org and requested that she be allowed to leave too. Hill claims she was considered a potential risk to Scientology's public profile as David Miscavige's niece, and the confessions were taken to use against her later if she spoke out publicly. That's a load of bullshit.
Yeah.
She was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Hill was 16 when her mother and father left Scientology in 2000. And Hill states that due to the Scientology-ordered practice of disconnection with relatives and friends who do not support Scientology or are hostile to it, letters from her parents were intercepted and she was not allowed to answer a telephone for a year. So I'm assuming she didn't leave the church. 2005 is when, so 5 years after her parents left is when she left. So at 16, she had to cut contact with her parents. Yeah, so she married 2001, and shortly after, her and her husband tried to leave the church, which apparently they threatened Dallas, her husband, with disconnection from his own family who was still in the church. So basically, the whole no contact or whatever.
Yeah.
And she further claims they were pressured to sign agreements which would entitle the church to claim $10,000 each time she spoke out publicly against the church, which she obviously refused. Yeah. So in 2005, she was able to finally leave and cut ties with the church. The Sea Org has been described as a paramilitary organization and as a private naval force, having operated several vessels in its past and displaying a maritime tradition. Some ex-members and scholars have described the Sea Org as a totalitarian organization marked by intensive surveillance and a lack of freedom. So, let's get into some controversies. Because there's one big one that I want to talk about. But, obviously, super secret, whatever, the public absence of Shelley Miscavige. There have been a number of controversies between Scientology and psychiatry since the founding of the Church of Scientology in 1952. Because Scientology is publicly and often vehemently opposed to both psychiatry and psychology, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, based on like some of their core beliefs or whatever, such as like the betterment of everyone's mental health and this, that, and the other. So why would you be against the betterment of someone's mental health?
Because they don't want you realizing you're being brainwashed.
So Scientologists view psychiatry as a barbaric and corrupt profession and encourage alternative care based on spiritual healing. Let's just give a PSA right now. Medicine is not bad. Therapy is not bad. If you need them, get them.
Take your meds.
Exactly.
I take mine and I am perfectly fine, though mine needs to be bumped up.
Yeah. Because, I know a lot of, which I kind of want to talk about, controversies in the spiritual community anyways at some point, but a lot of these New Age people believe that taking, depression or anxiety medicine will cause you to be quote-unquote low vibrational and you will not be able to achieve, spiritual whatever.
Which is bullshit.
According to the Church of Scientology, psychiatry has a long history of improper and abusive care, which, yeah, they do. There are some problems in history of, like insane asylums and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, God knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to be depressed, just go read up on a old sanitarium.
So the church actually founded an anti-psychiatry organization called Citizens Commission on Human Rights, which operates a museum in Hollywood, California called Psychiatry, an Industry of Death. And the museum is dedicated to criticizing what it describes as an industry driven entirely by profit. Okay.
That's like a pot calling the kettle black.
Isn't it? So going on to another little tidbit of them, obviously they have a reputation for hostile action towards anyone who criticizes the church in a public forum. Executives within the organization have proclaimed Scientology is not a turn the other cheek religion. So apparently L. Ron Hubbard had actually wrote a letter called Attack the Attacker, where he codified a policy in the 1960s in response to government investigations into the organization. So he noted the quote-unquote correct procedure for attacking enemies of Scientology. 1. Spot who is attacking us. 2. Start investigating them promptly for felonies or worse using own professionals, not outside agencies.
Yeah, that's what they use a lot of their money for, is to like blackmail other people.
3. Double curve our reply by saying we welcome an investigation of them. And 4. Start feeding lurid blood, sex, crime, actual evidence on the attackers to the press.
Though they wouldn't do that with Danny Masterson.
Of
course not.
Because he's a member of their church.
Yeah. But yeah, they'll like go and absolutely try and destroy people if they speak bad about it, which is fucking stupid.
Right. But everyone has the right to their own opinion.
Yeah. Okay. You can have your own opinion if it correlates with my opinion.
Yeah. So, obviously, much of the controversy surrounding Scientology is due to like criminal convictions of executives. One of the biggest ones, I would argue, was in 1978. A number of Scientologists, including L. Ron Hubbard's wife, Mary Sue Hubbard, who was second in command in the organization at the time, were convicted of perpetrating what was at the time the largest incident of domestic espionage in history of the United States, called Operation Snow White.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know this was a thing until...
Yeah, I've heard about it on my Colt's podcast.
Yeah. So this involved infiltrating, wiretapping, and stealing documents from the offices of federal attorneys and the Internal Revenue Service. Because I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to get rid of anything negative towards the church. Mary Sue Hubbard and the 10 accomplices tried to plead freedom of religion to get out of their sentencing.
See, this is why we should not have a country facing laws against one's religion. Because we have a freedom of religion, so we should have a freedom from religion.
I understand a lot of... So, I think it's in the Islamic religions, they have to pray at certain times and, they have to wear certain things and whatever, but that's what I feel like you should be using, like, your religious, whatever,
and,
for.
Like, with, Jewish people, like, with culture, or kosher foods. And stuff. I mean, that's cool. Yeah.
But like, trying to get out of a crime because of your religion, like, that shit don't work, man.
Yeah, that's stupid, and no one should have to live their life based upon your religion.
Okay, so going on to I feel like the biggest like controversies that the church has, which is the mistreatment of its members.
Yeah.
So in 2007, a 25-year-old woman from Sydney was charged with murdering her father and sister and seriously injuring her mother because her parents had prevented her from seeking the psychiatric treatment she needed because of their Scientology beliefs. So in 2012, Debbie Cook, who ran the spiritual Mecca for 17 years, came forward and accused the church of repeated counts of screaming, slapping, and being made to stand in trash and waters poured over you in efforts to confess her sins. This was all done in the Hole, which is located at Scientology's international base in Hemet, Florida. So real quick, the Hole is the name of a detention building. That's where all the naughty people go.
Yeah, that lady that killed her family, she obviously needs to get the help that she needs.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly don't. I don't know if she should actually serve time, because I mean it was her. Like, she should spend her time more in like a mental.
She needs to spend her
mental
time
hospital,
better,
getting therapy.
Yeah, because even doing that towards her family, like that's going, because she was going through a mental break, right?
Yeah.
A psychotic break,
Yeah.
because of her family's neglect of her.
Yeah.
And I don't think, okay, so yeah, she was 25 years old. So there's no telling how long this had been going on, and no telling how
long the trauma has been going on.
Yeah, and how long all this had been built up.
Like, she needs to get her help.
Yeah.
Instead of, going to prison or whatever.
Yeah.
But you said it was in Sydney, Australia?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't say what the outcome of it was, and it doesn't even say like who she was.
Yeah.
So getting back to the whole, like Debbie Cook and going into the whole, Debbie claims that she was taken there against her will and forced to stay for 7 weeks. The church states that she voluntarily participated in their program of religious discipline.
Like, what? Religious discipline?
Like, what the fuck is that?
Jesus Christ.
There's not supposed to be discipline in religion. It's supposed to be peaceful, and you're supposed to be happy in it.
Yeah, no.
So, I think there were several deaths of members, and the biggest one was that of Lisa McPherson. So she was 36 years old, and while in the care of Scientologists at the Scientology-owned Fort Harrison Hotel in Clearwater, Florida in 1995, at the time she was displaying symptoms suggesting she was struggling with mental illness. In one case, she removed all of her clothes after being involved in a minor traffic accident, later remarking she had done so in hopes of attaining counseling. The church, however, intervened to prevent McPherson from receiving psychiatric treatment and to keep her in church custody. It says that the records show that she was then placed in the Scientology program, the introspection rundown, which was forced isolation used to handle a psychotic episode. Weeks later, she was pronounced dead on arrival at a hospital. The autopsy identified multiple hematomas or bruises, an abrasion on the nose, and lesions that were consistent with insect/animal bites. An autopsy showed that she had died of a pulmonary embolism. So they pretty much stressed her out to the point of death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yet they want to make the world a better place.
There was another death of Ellie Perkins. She was a mother of 2, a professional glass artist, and a Scientologist who lived in Western New York. She was a senior auditor of the Church of Scientology in Buffalo, New York. When her then 24-year-old son Jeremy began to show strange, disturbing behavior, Ellie did not seek out psychiatric care, but used treatment in accordance with Scientology, because they believe psychiatry doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So first, the family sent Jeremy to Scientology Sea Org in California. He returned home some months later because Sea Org had not helped, and apparently he was found trespassing outside the University of Buffalo on August 14, 2001. Jeremy was arrested and remanded to a local hospital after a court-ordered psychiatric exam confirmed that he had a diagnosis of schizophrenia. So I think it goes on just like so his mom took him out, obviously. She refused any treatment with antipsychotic medications. And obviously Jeremy's condition declined.
Yeah, because that's what happens when you don't get the help that you need.
Mm-hmm. And so the Church of Scientology in 2002 ceased efforts to cure Jeremy and classified him as a type 3 potential trouble source, psychotic. In the fall of 2002, the family consulted Dr. Conrad Malfair, an osteopathic physician and Scientologist, so he's probably into some stupid shit. An alternative medicine practitioner.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. So Malfair concluded that Jeremy needed to be purged of certain chemical toxins in his body and said he needed to be energized through vitamin therapy. So, in most cases of schizophrenia, they...
Yeah, there is a chemical imbalance.
Yeah, but also they experience delusions and paranoia to like an extreme level, right?
Yeah.
So obviously this is not going to end well, right?
Yeah.
So Jeremy became suspicious of his mother because he thought the vitamins were poisoning him. So he began to act aggressive, and after a shower one day on March 13th, 2003, he retrieved a steak knife and tried to slit his wrist. He was unsuccessful, so Jeremy found his mother in the kitchen and attacked her as she was speaking to a friend on the phone. Autopsy reports showed that Ellie Perkins was stabbed 77 times.
Jesus.
Jeremy was charged with second-degree murder, but found not responsible by reason of mental disease.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Jeremy was put into a secure facility and put on medications, which court psychiatrists state have not cured him, but have stabilized his condition, which that's what medicines are for, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't reckon there's a cure.
That's basically all I had on the Church of Scientology.
Yeah. So
there was probably a whole lot more I could have added, but I'm like...
Look, my Cults podcast literally did 3 episodes on just L. Ron Hubbard himself.
He was wild. There's also his own website, and I think it's like lronhubbard.org or some shit. I was going to add it in, but I was like, there's similar stuff on Scientology's website. That's all I had. Basically, Scientology is just a big-ass cult that wants your money and doesn't give a shit if you die or not.
So what you're saying is their quote-unquote God is money.
Mm.
That's what they worship, is money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Look, yeah, so they are a religion. They worship money.
Oh my God, it's wild. Like, as I was going through all of it, I'm just, like, having flashbacks to my days in church. Because it's so similar. Like, the minute they said that everyone, basically, like, all of the ministers' attire and stuff reflect Protestantism, I was like, yeah, there it is. That was it. So, my sources for the week is obviously Scientology.org, Wikipedia, Insider.com, Newsweek.com. Oh, they also have, it's called Scientology.tv. So if you wanted to go and watch videos, they have an official website, Scientology.tv. David Miscavige is on front and center.
Well, this has been a fun ride to Bummersville on the few deaths that we covered, and that money's the root of all evil, and so we hope you enjoy this episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us about Scientology, I guess.
It was a wild ride. It was a wild rabbit hole to go down into, and I could have kept going.
And if you are a member of Scientology, what the fuck do you do as a career? Because I need money.
Right? Let us know. let us know. Yeah, I guess that's it. So,
yeah. And the podcast dogs, Ellie and Ozzy, say hello.
Yeah. We gotta post pictures of them.
Yeah, we gotta post pictures.
All that. So, anyways.
Speaking of posting pictures,
our Instagram is at Tea Party with Ghosts.
Email is teapartywithghosts@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Send us pictures of your dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Because we love pets.
Yeah.
Or your weird dogs, as in rabbits, chickens,
Yeah.
Any animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, if you got any more info on Scientology, send it our way.
Or if you grew up in Scientology and left, and you want to share your story, yeah,
we would love to, talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll have everything linked in the description. rate and review our podcast if you liked it, if you didn't like it, on
Let us
wherever
know.
you're listening to this. So I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and I will have you a very, very fun tale from Alaska. Believe me, this shit's hilarious. So
I'm excited. I have no idea what it's gonna be, so
yeah. So
excuse you. That was Ellie sneezing.
Yeah. Our dogs sneeze a lot. Yep. Peace, guys.
Bye.